What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports, and this is the Buckeye Remix. What's going down, everyone? It's another. This is a Victory Sunday. Once again, this is my favorite day to do the Buckeye Remix. But yeah. So it breaks down like this: the Buckeyes did win, and then that was the most important thing. How they did it, how we came out of it, and then we start talking about the rankings and all that is a different story. But most importantly, Buckeyes did win. Ohio State 33, Penn State 24. It could have, it was one of these games like it. Here's the overview. Buckeyes again had a ton of yards, really wasted a ton of opportunities in the red zone. This game is another one of these games, much like Oregon, that could have been broken wide open, but it wasn't, and that's what we're going to talk about. The point is, we're at the point in the season where, but it wasn't. We cannot get down to the inside the 5 yard line and not score twice. The defense did enough. This defense, we're we're not going to get any more than we're getting out of them. They're doing enough. They're holding teams. If you hold a team's, to 24 points, the Buckeyes should win, and they did. But it felt like I think everybody agrees that this probably should have been more like 45-24 or something like that. So, that was it. That my knee jerks were when I really watched that. This team hasn't evolved as much as I thought it was going to. You know, we've been saying for about 3 weeks now. I mean, the Buckeyes have been on a tear for 5 weeks against, just below average opponents, but they've been on tear. And we kept saying the biggest thing was like we'd like to replay that Oregon game now. We're a different team now, a different defense now. Not that that's totally wrong, but I don't know that watching the Buckeyes kind of squeezed out of victory versus Penn State last night. I don't know if that team was so much better than the one that lost to Oregon, because I'm not sure that if they played Oregon last night in that same environment that the Buckeyes win. And I mean that. I mean, I try to keep up on these Oregon games, and they've got a little better too. They haven't got worse. They didn't fall off the map. I keep hearing teams get up, for Ohio State. Yeah, that's fine. The first 5-6 minutes of a game, sometimes there is an extra energy, an extra bite to an opposing team. The fourth quarter, Penn State was still, eating the offensive line's lunch. So a team can't get up for an extra 4 quarters a game. This was realistic. This was how this game played out. This was the Penn State, that was their standard effort, and that's how the Buckeyes treated. So that actually worries me a little more. So my knee jerk was this team hasn't quite evolved like we wanted it to, even though they're better. Again, the most important thing was to win, but I don't think with a one loss team, a win is a win or survive and advance. I don't think any of that is actually true. I really don't. You may, I don't know. There seems to be a bit of a divide on where we fall with that as Buckeye fans, but it is what it is. Another thing, there's something about it. It's uncomfortable to do. I want to say first and foremost that I think CJ Stroud is a good quarterback, a really good quarterback. I think he seems like a legitimately good person. I like how he talks to people. I like how he handles himself. I like how he's handled the season and the turmoil and the question marks and all these things. But when I watch him play quarterback, maybe he's just one of these guys that has his facial expressions are misleading, but he looks like he gets shook. He's only played basically, well, I guess now if you really totaled up, he's played 4 kind of tight games, and every one of them he has looked like he gets rattled. And then I hear him after the game, and he's just so polite and everything. And I'm not. There's no way other than the question is like, I said it last night on Twitter. Is he almost too nice? Does he have too much perspective, and he understands that it's just a game, that it's not the end of the world, and that's fine. Like, believe me, that's fine. This is not a I'm not condemning his future as a person or anything like that, but I wonder if he had a little more killer instinct, a little more bite in him, a little more go for the jugular, if that's what we need right now. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm just saying these are questions that I have. That's just what I jump out when I look at him when it was tough last night. I'm like, we need to. He did make a few big throws. He missed a few big throws, but I think there's a question mark there of where he's at in his mentally in his stage of being a quarterback at Ohio State. And I don't mean mentally as like he can't do it. I just mean does do the are the big moments affecting him? That's all I'm asking. And maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe y'all kill me for that. So get at me at jhunt 006 on Twitter. Tell me that I'm crazy. I'd be happy to hear it. So first of all, the offense, they played good, but once again, they struggled when it wasn't easy. They got stubborn. They kept trying to run, their same plays that typically the offensive linemen make that hole for Henderson or even Williams, and then they make the linebacker miss, and then it's off to the races. But the offensive line got handled. They could not open up anything in the middle. Ohio State got stubborn and kept trying to force it, trying to force it, trying to force it. They were actually fortunate to score when they did. I mean, he got in by like 6 inches, but those count. I understand. Henderson's going to break them, and he did. He's a really good player, and he did break the long run, and that was the difference in the game. Let's be honest. That and Cage's, a touchdown, but still, it bothered me a little. Like, the calls on fourth down, going for it. Maybe we take a field goal. It's just all these things really, really bothered me about the offensive. Like when it wasn't easy, it seemed to get very, very difficult. So anyway, the offense, they had all the yards once again. And again, Stroud made the giant throws that he did. There's 2 or 3 of the throws that there's not a lot of quarterbacks in the country can make. So I was proud of them, but I thought the offense took a tiny step back. I thought they got muscled a little bit. They got pushed around a little bit. Slightly underachieved last night. Defense. The D line played really, really tough. They had some sacks, they had some impact, they had a touchdown, a giant touchdown, which this is why, when you talk about these games, this is where recruiting comes into it, because you're talking about a guy that looks like he weighs pushing 350, 400 pounds, and he runs, over half the field for a touchdown. So that's why you bring these guys in. The D looked better. What I would say is they got another touchdown, which is awesome. That has helped. Like, let's be honest. That's when you win a game by 9 points and your defensive lineman scores a touchdown. That's obviously a big difference. What I would say for the secondary is they didn't get burnt. I really thought Dotson was have his way. He had a big game. I think it was 10 catches, roughly 120 yards, something like that. You guys know I'm not a huge stat guy. Like if I say 127 yards, does that really change the game? But Dotson didn't, they didn't make huge mistakes over the top. They're playing a ton of zone right now. People are getting frustrated. I'm a fan of this because when they were coming at you and going man to man, we said the same thing, that this defense couldn't do it. And I still don't think they can. I really don't think that they can just match up and take a team out man to man, especially when they play Michigan State. They're going to have serious troubles if they try to just man up. So I wasn't totally disappointed with that. They kept things in front of them. They were really close on some of Clifford's throws. I mean, credit to Clifford, made some really big time throws in the holes in the zone, that's what a zone does. It keeps it in front of you, but it does open these gaping holes. Our players are getting closer to making that big interception, to breaking up that play, to reading that. They're not quite there yet. They're running out of time to get there, to be honest, but they're not quite there yet. So I thought they did all right. Basically, they didn't get burnt. That was big on the defense. So defense did enough. They gave up less points than they Buckeye scored total. So that's it. That's a win. That's how it goes. So, all right, let's get on the report card here. We'll double up some of the offense. I already said it. Quarterback, I gave him a B. Stroud got a B last night. He seemed rattled at times. He won't run, so it just really takes the RPO out of the equation, which is really upsetting. I'm not saying he has to, but call the plays that aren't based on the threat of him running, because teams don't care anymore. Is there going to be a time, hopefully down the road in the playoffs or whatever, that he finally pulls it out and goes for 80? Maybe. But I'm just saying, as of now, like, it's no threat to run, which allows another player in the defense to run around. You don't have to keep one eye on him. Defensive coordinators have an easier job, just so on and so forth. So I'm not saying he has to, but it is a knock. He won't run and he doesn't get those extra yards. Still, I said it before, a few great throws that when he does it, you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." Like, he really did a good job. Wasn't great conditions last night. He missed a huge what would have been actually, honestly, the touchdown pass that he misses on 4th down, and I think that was mostly him because Olave goes, Stroud threw it, but he threw it short of the goal line. So I think that was really on Stroud to miss that big four. That would have put it to 10, and that game would have been out of reach. So the play was there, but he didn't make it. Overall, he played a pretty good game. I mean, a B is not the end of the world. Uh, so it is, but still, again, he seemed to be rattled. He seemed to get caught up in a moment a little bit, and he's going to have a lot of these moments the rest of the year. Like, he's got every game he plays the rest of the year, these moments are going to be there. So we just got to see. We got to see how he handles it. As of now, he's winning. He's doing everything right. Wide receivers gave him a B plus basically because they did get one touchdown. They didn't get the separation that we're used to. They weren't running free. Like they normally. Penn State, I think, has a pretty legit secondary, but the wide receivers didn't impact the game like they normally do. I know it's hard when you got to combine the play calls. You got to look at everything. They did a good job. It's not like I'm killing them, but I just, for the first time in weeks, they didn't get an A or an A plus from me. So I just thought that they just wasn't their best game, but a B plus is fine. Running backs, I got a B minus. I know Henderson broke the big run. He kept going at it, but he kept stumbling at the line of scrimmage. He didn't feel like he had a real feel for that. I think he missed some holes, especially some cutbacks and a few times. They didn't spread it out. I mean, Williams barely got any carries. The running game just felt like, and once again, when I say running backs, it's not just the specific player; it's the whole. It's the coaching staff and everything on running backs. They did all right. I mean, the big run was, huge, but other than that, really a subpar game from the running backs. And yes, I know Henderson had the yards. Once again, I'm not saying they were terrible, but I gave him a B minus. I thought it was the running attack had its worst game in a while. Offensive line, I gave him a C plus. I know it's crazy. They didn't give up any sacks. They did a pretty good job, but they got completely manhandled in the run game and completely manhandled in the RPO game all game long. It never slowed up. They never had an answer. Penn State was underneath them. They got like it wasn't even close, and everybody will tell you that. So the run lanes just weren't there. The holes weren't there. There was no run lanes. There was a couple cutbacks, but all in all, not their best performance. They looked a little lethargic. And I said this about big offensive lines, like that's great and straight up pass protection, but then you need to decide how you're going to run the ball. We need to start getting some tight ends implemented more, some fullbacks, H backs, wide receivers, all that in the blocking game. If this is how you're going to try to attack it's not going to work on these defenses, especially Michigan State and Michigan. That offensive line is not going to be able to run against them. So that's all I'm saying. So not their best game. C plus for the offensive line. Defensive line, A minus. We talked about it. They got a huge touchdown, good pressure all night. Really, really, really contained the Penn State run game. Didn't let them get away with that. Bother. I thought they had a better job. They did a better job than I originally thought. When I went back and looked, I'm like, yeah, they did pretty good. A lot of good effort out there, and so I gave them an A minus for last night. If anything, there were times to where Clifford was comfortable in the pocket, but I understand that with the defense, especially if you're dropping, a lot of guys back, in zone, you're not going to have the pressure that we're used to. The outside edge rush still isn't there. It's coming. It's coming. The Sawyer and JTT are taking steps, so it is getting better. So that's encouraging. A minus for defensive line. Linebackers a B. Some good blitzes, some good, nice blitz packages. Really enjoyed that. Pass coverage was all right. They're still slow to fill in that void. Like it's a veteran instinctual linebacker probably has some interceptions, in that zone defense. That kind of what your linebackers got to be able to fill those holes in a zone defense. They're not quite there. Chambers getting tossed out of the game, which is a whole other thing. The penalties. Maybe we want to talk about the penalties for a second. I don't want to complain about it, but really not a well-called game. There was some blatant holds on Penn State that would have changed the game, honestly. They didn't. Chambers getting thrown out, and he's out for the first half of the Nebraska game. That really stung. He's coming into his own. He's a very aggressive linebacker, and he got thrown out of a game because honestly, like, I understand the call. Like, he did bow, he did put his head down a little bit, but he got thrown out of that game because he hit a quarterback. Any other play, it's fine, but that stung, honestly. So I thought the linebackers played a pretty good job, and I thought Chambers was doing a really good job before he got thrown out. So not too hard on him. Uh, Better tackling, pretty solid tackling, when they had a chance. So, I gave him I gave him a B. I thought it wasn't too bad. Defensive backs we talked about. I gave him a B plus. They give up a ton of yards, but that's what this was designed to do. It was designed to. I hate to say it. I hate to say the cliches, but bend don't break. They give up a ton of passing yards, but they tackled when the guys caught the ball. They tackled them. They didn't give up silly touchdowns, and they they slowed Dotson. I know it sounds crazy to say the guy had, I think it was 11, once again, 11 for 120 something, but they didn't let him get free, and that was their job. So, and again, they won, so they did enough. So, defensive backs, get a B plus this week. I thought they had a pretty good effort. I'm pretty proud of them. Let's talk about the coaching staff, which I call the head coach on here. I'm sorry. I didn't put up my report card, guys. I apologize for that if you're watching live. There we go. Head coach. I gave him a C. I'll be honest with you. This team wasn't ready for the fight that they were into from start to finish. They never came around. They never got hit in the mouth and responded. They just kept getting beat up the whole fight, and are honestly just good enough players and good enough athletes to overcome it, if we're being totally honest. So the team wasn't ready for this. I thought Ryan Day got caught up in the bad calls and things like that a little bit and got kind of out of his head, which a head coach can't do that. A head coach cannot worry about that stuff. I don't, you saw, and that's a big knock. Like the guy on the other sideline, Franklin, gets so caught up in the bad calls and so caught up in the officials. That all takes time away from coaching your team. So Day did better than Franklin, but he still got a little caught up in the moment. The fourth down decisions were just stubborn. You take your field goals, take the points. I'm not saying that Ohio State typically doesn't get those. Yeah, well, they weren't playing Maryland. They didn't get them. I thought there was some poor decisions there in the way. The clock management was pretty good, but more importantly, I knocked them for, like, after the game. It was the whole, well, we had to get all that mattered was getting the win BS. No, no, no. I talked about it. That does not hold true for a team that has one loss, and a loss to a team. I know everybody thought that the better, or okay, hear me out here. That you typically think your team loses, the other team, you want them to be really good, so your loss looks better. Well, here's the problem: Oregon looks better, but they're not losing. So now what you have is, now you're going to have an argument coming down to the wire with, now you're going to have to plead your case to why you should be in over Oregon. So now it's backfiring on you. So this whole, wins a win, that's all that's important. No, that is not true. Ohio State needs style points, whether you like it or not. They didn't get them last night. Everybody else could see it. I'm not the only one that could see this game. I think we'll find out Tuesday night that the committee saw it. And they'll get punished for it, and then the realization is going to kick in that a win is not a win. He needed another touchdown in that game. I just be completely honest with you, and I thought he handled it. I'm not saying, I just thought it was one of his more lackadaisical coaching jobs of the year, considering the team they were playing. But Franklin did worse. Honestly, if I'm a Penn State fan, I got way more gripes with my coach than I got with Ohio State. So yeah. So bottom line is, wasn't Ohio State's best game for sure. They did get the win, which, everybody keeps telling me that. I will not ignore the deficiencies and what I see as of right now. As of this second, I don't think they can beat both Michigan teams in the rest of the season. I just can't see. I watched that game yesterday, Michigan State. Like, both those teams do things that will expose Ohio State's weaknesses. So as of now, I'm concerned. But we'll see. Every game's different. This team grows a little more each week, and I love them for it. So bottom line is, they got to win. I'd rather be sitting here at complaining about a victory than Penn State with 3 losses in a row and wondering who my next head coach is going to be. So that's it. That's it for the remix. I love you guys. Thanks for checking in. Check out offtheballnetwork.com. Check out Jeff Needs Sports anywhere you get your podcast. We'll see you next week after the Nebraska game. Hopefully it's I could play a little more good cop than bad cop next week. Who knows? So have a great week and be kind, everybody, and go Bucks.